What up, YouTube? It's July 25th, and right now it's 10:11 p.m., and this is another blog recording about this chapter that I just finally read today and finished, about Oman, or what they used to call Uman in Arabia, in southeastern Arabia. It's east of Yemen. They was basically going further into the conquest of that area. The last chapter that I read, and I had to put together and do my book report audio recording on, was, the further conquest of Yemen. So I'm not going to go really do too much reiteration because I already know too much about it. And, I find when I listen to my chapters in order and shit, sometimes I'm like, it's kind of repetitious every time I start off going into what happened during the last chapter. So I'm just going to get straight into it. And this for sure going to be short because I explain when I get to the end of this. So anyway, basically now, the year is between 631 and 632 AD. All right? I guess I should get, okay. Well, yeah, I guess I should talk about the people first and then explain what happened. Basically, you had a group of people or a kingdom referred to as Al-Julanda. All right? Now, this kingdom was basically, or it consisted of the Al-As people. The same people that pretty much had, left Marib in Yemen, of course. That's not too far from Sinai. During the first century, and they had also occupied and inhabited Asia Minor all the way up into Syria, which is known as Syria today. Because I already explained how, at least the central portion of Asia Minor down into northern Arabia is also considered ancient Syria or a part of it. But, the descendants of the same group pretty much inhabited parts of Oman as well, but all the way to the northeastern portion of Oman. And there is a town called Sohar. That's the name of the town. I almost forgot the shit. Sohar, and it's at the northeastern portion of Oman or Uman, and it basically borders the Arabian Sea. All right, so northeast of it is Sohar, and then to the east of that is the Arabian Sea, and directly north of that, in other words, directly north of Oman or Uman, you got the Oman Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, all right? The Gulf of Oman also connects to the Persian Gulf, all right? So the Persian Gulf basically is south of both Iran, which is known back in the day as Persia, as well as Iraq. So that's how the map kind of plays out. But anyway, yeah. So this group of people, the Al-As people, and I want to say real quick, it's funny to me because I'm like, damn, they basically spread through all of the Middle East damn near, except not too much of Iraq, a little bit of it, like Al-Kufa. You can find groups of those people there as far as the descendants of them. And Al-Hira definitely, and Al-Samari. You can find some of those people there also. As far as the Banu Kabi people. As far as Iran, I don't think you're going to find too much of them, but beyond Iran, like we talked about Afghanistan and India, that's when it becomes even more scarce. So far, I don't know of any clans or tribes back in this period that lived in India and Afghanistan. Very, very, matter of fact, I really don't know too much as far as Iran either. But everywhere else, like to the west of that shit, Asia Minor, all that, parts of Jordan also, as well as throughout Arabia, Yemen, and Oman, you find descendants of the Al-As people there. So, before I go further, I want to make a note of this. I thought it was interesting. I'm like, damn, these people back in the day must have really been populating and repopulating for everybody to be traced back to fucking Yemen, basically, to Marib and Sinai of Yemen. But more importantly, Marib, because that's the place that they left during the first century when the Aram Dam collapsed for the third time, as the history is written. So I'm like, damn, these people must have been really be having babies and shorties. But anyway, so this group, they pretty much lived in eastern Oman. And like I say, the town or city was called Sohar. and they were like a prominent group in Oman as well, even though like a majority of Oman pretty much consists of desert, right? So like prior to Muhammad sending delegates there, you had two kings, so they were basically tribal leaders. One guy, his name was Abdallah, and the other guy, his name was Jafar. So again, 631, between 631 and 632, Muhammad had sent two messengers to them. Now, and thinking about it, I'm like, okay, if they were prominent or what have you, Muhammad obviously knew of these people. But when he sent these two messengers, one, he was part of the Al-Khazraj tribe in Medina, so he was an Ansar, and then the other guy originated in Mecca also. So I had learned something like as far as like an additional clan within the Quraysh tribe. So I know about 6 other clans already, but this kind of like makes it the 7th clan. And the clan was called the Sami clan within Quraysh. Okay, the guy that was from that clan that was a part of this two delegate, that was one of the two delegates sent to Sohar. His name was Amar ibn al-Asi as-Sami. It's a pretty fucking long name, all right? Now, he was more so like a general, like a military commander, and he becomes more important later on in the story. But that's pretty much what his position was, and I'll go further into that in a second. The other guy, his name was Amar ibn Akhtab. Now, he was the cat that was from Medina, and he was a part of the Al-Khazraj tribe initially, so he's referred to as an Ansar as well. Ansar pretty much means helper, all right? And that tribe that I just named were like one of the first major tribes that sided with Muhammad when he made it to Medina, and then, developed a covenant between himself and those that followed Muhammad in Medina. So they have like a rooted history together. So these two people went to Sohar. Now, the message that they pretty much conveyed to the people, Muhammad was like, aside from like the universal stipulation, it's like, okay, if you join Islam, of course, you wouldn't have to pay any type of poll taxes, but you would have to pay a sadaqah just like everybody else. You would be under Islamic protection as well. And, of course, the sadaqah, just like everywhere else, because like I say, it's universal, it will be redistributed to the poor population as far as Muslims, you know what I'm saying, as well as wayfarers, wayfarers, which is people that basically will pass through. So, they were pretty much guaranteed shelter and food for their temporary stay there. Again, this is universal stipulation, a part of every last fucking agreement that Muhammad made between any other population prior to them that accepted his terms. Now, the people pretty much accepted it, and then when Muhammad later on died, also a part of the stipulation, I almost forgot, because this is off the top of the head, by the way. Part of the stipulation is Muhammad said, once you all accept this, then I'm going to make Amar ibn Akhtab the answer. And when I say answer, I'm talking about A-N-S-A-R, and I'm talking about like an answer to a question. I'm going to make him, Amar ibn Akhtab, a qazi. Now, they didn't use the term qazi, but based on the description of his position there, once these people accept Muhammad's terms, is pretty much what it is. He said, this guy is going to be responsible for teaching Islam to you and showing you the proper ways of being a Muslim. All right? That is, in part, the duty of a qazi. So that's what that guy would serve as. Now, the other guy, as far as Amar ibn al-Asi as-Sami, and the last name pretty much just denotes the clan that he originally came from within Quraysh. But that guy was supposed to serve as like a military commander there over the people. And again, he becomes a little bit more relevant. I ain't going to say a little bit more relevant, but he comes up again later on as the book goes along when they start talking about conquering parts of Egypt and then the city that they built. And this all happened in 640, but I get to that part later on in the book and be able to flesh it out a little bit more. Now, that's pretty much all about this chapter. Everything else they mentioned as far as like, what happened when Muhammad died, that's during the caliphate of Abu Bakr. And then they talked about what happened during Umar's caliphate too. Now, the reason why I brush it off for now, temporarily speaking, is because throughout this whole book I had told myself I'm going to go in chronological order. All right? So that part of the chapter is, or those hadiths concerning the history after Muhammad died, which includes, again, two caliphs, Abu Bakr and Umar. That's something that I have to come back to later on once I fully get to Abu Bakr as far as his caliphate is concerned, which is coming up very, very fucking soon, because like right after this chapter, they're going to talk about Al-Bahrain, the little island which is also northeast of northeastern Arabia. Well, no, I would say northeastern Arabia, but I would say basically northeast of the United Arab Emirates, as well as Oman. Because the peninsula is a weird-ass fucking shape to it. It's like a slanted bullet to the left. You know what I'm saying? So I got to be careful when I describe, like, the geography of it. But it's basically northeast of the United Arab Emirates and Oman. But when they get to that island of Bahrain, that is also during Muhammad's lifetime, all right? So I'm like, okay, let me get through all this shit in chronological order, and then once he died and then Abu Bakr comes into being, then I can read the chapters concerning him as I go along, but also at the same time be inclusive. In other words, go back and then read this chapter that I just finished today and include that information also, because all of that is relevant as to what happened during his caliphate. All right, so I wasn't really being lazy. I'm just following the principle that I've been operating on since I read the book. Just like, for instance, like when I go along further and then they get to the point in the book where they're talking about the caliphate of Umar, I would have to go back to the chapters. And there's quite a few of them. Like I say, the one concerning Kabar, Fadak, Tame, all across the board. And every last one of those chapters that I read, they always had those hadiths talking about, like, like I say, the initial part of it, they're going chronological order, but then they include the hadiths talking about what happened when Umar became the caliph. For instance, as far as Kabar is concerned, he ended up kicking the Jews off the land. And based on my recollection, they had gave two stories that I pretty much questioned. I don't think those are the real reasons. One, for instance, is that his son or somebody had got pushed off a building and broke his hand. Another one, he felt like the Muslims was treating, not the Muslims, but like the Jews, the population there, the people that they call Zimmis. They were treating the Muslim population a certain way. But another reason why I question that is, and so that was the reason why Umar kicked him off the land, but the reason why I question that is because he did that throughout all the fucking oases that Muhammad had initially conquered, all right, including the people in Yemen. He did the same thing to the Jews there. So, when I go get to Umar, then I would have to, I don't want to say backtrack, but I guess I just have to go back to them hadiths concerning what happened in these oases, in these previous chapters, when Umar had became the caliphate, or the caliph, and was running, or was the head of a caliphate. That's why I say I'm going in chronological order, so I'm not like disregarding anything, all right? This is just my method of reading this book. So in saying that, I'm going to say something else extra because it's been 14 minutes, so I'll go ahead and include this. Just like how I don't completely agree with the analysis of every single chapter, I don't think that these people there in Suhar, were willing to just accept Islam because of the terms that Muhammad provided as far as, aside from the Sadakas and all that, but as far as them being under his protection. The reason why I think that they pretty much more than likely had no choice but to do that, just like other people who would not be capable of defeating Muhammad militarily speaking, is because later on during the caliphate of Abu Bakari, that was a rebellion that occurred, and that's when the people decided to move further north, all right, northwest actually, through Oman, going toward the area that today the United Arab Emirates is at. So I'm like, shit, if it was always a faction of people that necessarily did not want to convert to Islam, that sentiment pretty much lingered. That's what I'm thinking to myself. And again, what happened later on validates that, even though it was another chief by that time period. His name was Laqit. There's different ways to spell and enunciate his name. You can say Laqit, but another way is Laqit ibn Malik. He had became the chief of those people by the time you get to the first caliph, which is Abu Bakari. And he was the guy that rebelled and then took a population of those people and headed northwest. But again, to me, that becomes relevant. That's something that I go into during that caliphate, all right? But first, I got to, like I say, continue in chronological order. I don't feel like it makes sense for me to flesh all that out and then go back to it during his caliphate. And that, to me, that just doesn't make sense. So that's pretty much everything that occurred in this chapter. Like I say, the next one is the conquest of Al-Bahrain, which I will start breaking down tomorrow. Of course, I got to go through the jargon and all that. And, you know, once I get the jargon down packed and then thoroughly actually read the chapter, break it down, do my my audio book report on that chapter and just keep going. Like I said, I'm almost pretty much done with the book. You know what I'm saying, as far as like all the information that I deem to be relevant. Because I do feel like I have to at least get through the Rashidun period, and even after the Rashidun period, but definitely getting through the Rashidun period. Like I say, what I documented on Facebook already a while ago, I already got my answer as far as the people of Yemen is concerned. But this whole thing about Oman, that just pretty much adds more validation to what the fuck I think. So, yeah, July 25th, 2017, and like I say, I document everything I come up with. I feel fucking good doing it. I don't have to do anything outside of my method so far, but go to the library, anything else extra, I don't have to pay any attention to because the numbers don't lie for Coke Jay-Z. Everything I put together, I always make sure I document some shit on fucking Facebook. I keep the records of what I search on Google. I always log into my YouTube account, and then I do my Google searches, and all of that gets pretty much recorded, the dates and all of that. So, I mean, you can have the fucking, I don't know, you can have, shit, Barack Obama say, no, I wrote this shit, I made it up. He's not going to have the dates to prove that. Anything he comes up with is going to be after the fact. And commonsensically speaking, if his shit completely coincides with mine, as far as my original analysis on this shit, it's going to be obvious that somebody was snooping on somebody else's shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not really worried about that. Like I say, I follow my method because it works. I don't have to respond to anything. I don't have to go outside of the box. I just got to continue doing me and put my shit up on YouTube. Bottom line. July 25th, 10:29 p.m. God damn it, and it's on to the next.